Hello, and welcome to The Resource, the podcast propelling employer brands to recruit smarter and retain better. I'm your host, Priscilla Peters.
And I'm your host, Scott Dismuke, and we are
together
face to face
in one room.
How many episodes have we done? 6, 7?
We started in June and it's December, so yeah.
6?
If I can count right, 6. Yeah.
For the first time, here we are.
I know. I kind of like it. I was saying when we were getting set up, I feel like I like the vibe of being in the same room.
Well, we did the Optum podcast. For those of you who haven't seen it, go check it out. Semi-related podcast. And we were actually together for that, but this is the first time that we've done ours together.
That's true. I forgot we were together for that. Yeah, this is great. I'm in for our company holiday party and all the fun things. I'm normally at my home office when we record, so this is awesome. This is fun. We're here.
I'm normally in my office.
Yes.
So we kind of moved into the conference room. It's not lovely. The best. It's not the best of backgrounds.
It's lovely,
but it's something.
But yeah, so here we are. You got big plans? What you got going for the holidays?
So all of my family lives here in Nashville.
Oh.
So on my wife's family, my mom, now my sister lives in San Diego, so we don't normally get to see her. So yeah, we have a lot of Christmas events that we have to do. We've got friends that we do New Year's with every year.
Well, tell me about the New Year's. What do you do?
Well,
do you stay up till midnight?
Yeah. So it's funny. My wife and I talked about this. We're finally at that age where like we get to midnight and it's high fives, hugs, kisses, tell everybody we love them, and then off to bed.
See, I'm at the age where we don't, I don't think the past 2 years we've made it to midnight. Now we went to a party like 2 years ago and I made it and I was like, either I'm going to have to maybe have one more cocktail or I'm going to have to go to bed.
Yeah. So,
There's no in between.
It wasn't that long ago that I was making fun of my parents who would call me at like 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock on New Year's Eve and say, "Hey, Happy New Year. We love you." I'd be like, "You mean you can't stay up until midnight?" And now I'm kind of at that age where I'm like, I get it. So yeah, we usually have food and we play some games and it's low key. I don't want to go downtown here in Nashville to Second Avenue or Broadway where there's 100,000 people. I don't like people that well.
No.
So I don't want to do that.
My daughter and I are going to New York the day after Christmas, but we're coming home the 29th, so we'll be home.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so we're going to go with some other dance moms and dance daughters to New York and spend a few.
You can do the Rockettes.
We're doing the Rockettes, and we're doing a Broadway show, and they have a whole shopping thing. I'm like, it was just Christmas. Like, what are we talking about? But anyway, she's real excited. I forgot to tell you about. I hadn't told you about that.
That's awesome.
Yet. Yeah,
go see the Rockettes. That's fantastic.
Yes.
They've come to Nashville several times. I saw them.
Oh, really?
Many years ago when they would play the Grand Ole Opry.
Well, we're excited. We haven't been in a while. Okay, so we're about to ask our guest for part of the first 5, but I want to know, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
So I have 2.
I know you do, and one of
them
is like Dumb and Dumber.
No, it's not Dumb and Dumber. Well, no, it's not Dumb and Dumber. So there are 2 Christmas movies that I have to watch every year.
Okay.
On the fun, twisted humor side of things, that those of you that have watched know that's kind of where I lean. I have to watch Christmas Vacation. To. I can quote pretty much any line from that. But the thing I love about Christmas Vacation is if you go back and you watch it as many times as I have, there's just these little things in that movie that the more you see it and the funnier it gets. My favorite one is Cousin Eddie when they're in the living room drinking eggnog and you can see the black Dickie through his white sweater. It's my all-time favorite. So that's a must. But the other serious Christmas movie that I have to watch is It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
All-time favorite Christmas movie. I get sappy. You cannot watch the last part of It's a Wonderful Life. Doesn't matter how many times you've seen it and not tear up on that last scene. Have to do it.
Yeah. So mine's a little different, but I'm telling you, if you haven't seen, this is the best Christmas movie. It's called Four Christmases. Have you seen it with Reese Witherspoon and Vince Vaughn?
Yes, it's great.
Literally our favorite. Like, we've already watched it. We watched it in November once already. It's our all-time favorite. And I think Elf is like a classic.
Elf is great. Elf is fantastic.
But when Vince Vaughn, when she's holding the baby, and the baby throws it. He's like, yeah. I mean, it's literally. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch.
Okay, so here's the big Christmas movie question that's asked every Christmas that I want your opinion on.
Okay,
is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Oh, I know. I've heard people say that. I feel like it is because it gives that vibe. You're saying no.
It's no. Well, I love to have this conversation because I like to play both sides of the fence. Here's why. There's all of the things that I believe makes it a Christmas movie. The one thing that hurts the case, if you go back and you look, it was released in July. It was released during the summer.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
So most Christmas movies obviously come out at this time of year. Okay. So that's the big argument for me against it.
That's valid.
But I love to have that argument with my wife, who says that it's not, and I push back on all of those
that's
things.
valid. That's valid. Yep. So we're gonna have Christmas, we're gonna have New Year's, and then we're gonna have the Recruitment and Retention Conference,
which is your most wonderful time of the year.
Oh yeah, my busiest time of year for sure. Yeah, so we're excited about that. And actually, our guest today is one of our keynote speakers, Chris Tuff. Y'all are going to love this interview with him. It's great. And we did something a little different. We had a little fun, a little Christmas fun with this one. So, but I think, what he's sharing with us today is going to be great. And then also what he's going to share at the conference. Yep. I think everybody's going to really love him, especially when it comes to retention. So are we ready to dive in?
Yeah, let's bring him in.
All right. All right. So we are ready to dive in with our guest today. Y'all, we're super excited about our guest today. So we have a very special December edition of the Resource Podcast. And today we are thrilled to have bestselling author and one of the keynote speakers for the upcoming R&R conference, Chris Tuff, is joining the show today. Throughout his career, Chris has shared insights with industry giants like Meta, that's Facebook, Scott, in case you're wondering.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Nike and Verizon. He's the author of The Millennial Whisperer. We have to read.
I got to read that. I got to know
notes on that.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to maybe tell us a little bit about that.
And also his latest work, Save Your Asks. I love it. He shares compelling interviews and stories from the world's top leaders about the power of authenticity and connection in sales and networking. We need a little of that.
We need a lot of that.
Driver recruiting and retention for sure. He is a proud Vanderbilt University graduate, hailing from Atlanta. Chris, along with his love for kiteboarding, I need to hear about that.
Yeah, we need to know about that too.
And Jordan 1s, which my kids are here for that, and I am too. Actually, I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Like, I don't feel like you're too old for that. And he brings a unique blend of expertise and personality to our podcast today. We're so excited. We are ready for your invaluable insight. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you all for having me. I'm excited to be here. Let's do this thing.
I know. We can't wait to see you in person at the Recruitment and Retention Conference in February, right here in Nashville. Now, here's the thing. We start all of our interviews in a very serious manner.
Very serious. Yeah. Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. No. Actually, before we get into that, though, tell us about kiteboarding. I got to know. I think I know what it is, but I got to know what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's probably the least convenient sport to do when you're in a landlocked place like Atlanta. But I'm luckily on planes quite a bit. And so kiteboarding is, you've probably seen people wakeboard, but you have a kite attached to a harness around your waist. And that's essentially what not only propels you, but lofts you like 60 feet into the air.
60 feet.
I mean, I guess I can get about 40 so feet in the air. And so you basically have a parachute attached to you on the ocean. And that's where I find, weirdly, like all of my peace and quiet is kiteboarding. And obviously I'm an adrenaline junkie.
So do you, when you land though, is there anything, there's nothing to land on? There's not like a ski or a wakeboard?
Well, you have it's a parachute. So yeah, I mean, you have a wakeboard essentially attached to your feet, but then, you're not going down as hard because you've got this huge kite attached to your stomach, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, just Google kiteboarding accidents and it'll ensure that you'll never do it.
Yeah, for sure. I can assure you I'll never do it anyway.
Sounds like fun, but I would break a hip.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so we are going to dive into what we call the first 5, this First 5 serious questions that seriously do not matter. Just to kind of get to know you a little bit, Chris, before we dive into all this recruitment and retention speak. So, first of all, in your opinion, we're going to make this the holiday version of the first 5, okay? In your opinion, like, what is the best Christmas dish? Like, what dish do you look forward to? You're like, oh, it's Christmas, I'm going to eat.
So I know this is a probably something that not everyone will be excited about, but I'm not a turkey guy, right? So I am a straight up dessert guy, and pecan pie is my go-to with some ice cream. That is what I look forward to the most. It's always the desserts around Christmas time that
pecan. He says pecan.
Yeah.
Even hailing from Atlanta, we say pecan in Arkansas. What do you say?
Usually pecan is what I would say.
Pecan pie.
Pecan pie.
Yeah.
Listen, I love me some pecan pie too. I love it. Yes, that's my go-to as well. Let me tell you something I discovered this year. Sorry, I know I'm busting up the.
Go right ahead.
Did you know someone brought to Thanksgiving at our house this year a pecan pie or pecan pie that has chocolate chips in it?
Oh yeah. The chocolate mix.
That was a game changer. You know where they got it? The Barrel, Cracker Barrel.
All good things come from Cracker Barrel.
Anyway, okay. So pecan pie. Pecan pie. Okay.
Okay. So next Christmas question: what is your favorite Christmas movie?
Christmas Story, hands down.
The original one.
Story. Yes, original.
Did you watch the sequel? Did you like it?
I couldn't even finish it. I felt like it was. I think I tried it for about 20 minutes. I had to turn it off.
Wait, I didn't know that. When was there a sequel?
It was like came out last year. It was a couple. Last couple years.
Yeah. Like him as an adult.
He's him as an adult. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It's it's kind of the whole sentimental. I mean, but Chris is right. It's so.
So Scott and I earlier in this episode talked about our favorite Christmas movies. Mine is Four Christmases. It's classic in my opinion. It's like
so good.
So good. But here's a little trivia for y'all that you may not know. Speaking of Christmas Story, did you know that the dude in Four Christmases, when they go to the airport and they're having the conversation with the guy, that's the kid at the airport. It's the kid from Christmas Story.
No way.
Yeah, and he's also in Elf.
He is an elf. He's an elf.
He's one of the elves
at the North Pole. Look at us.
Classics right there.
Yeah, so that kid who's not now a kid, he's actually really good friends with Jon Favreau.
Yes.
Who wrote, or I don't know if he wrote, but he directed Elf.
Yeah.
And
did you know that? Sorry, I know we're going on here, but did you know that whenever Jon Favreau, or however you say his name is, whenever he took Elf to the studios and he said, "I want Will Ferrell to play Elf," they were like, "There's no way Will Ferrell can carry a movie on his own." I'm like, listen, Will Ferrell DJing at his son's fraternity party. I can't with that.
That was unbelievable.
That really, literally made my fall. Okay. Number 3, what is the most used? This is not a Christmas question.
Yeah, this is not a Christmas question. We're done with the Christmas questions now.
Okay. What is the most used app on your phone?
By far text messages, but here's how I use it differently. And I talk about this in my keynote, but the power of the video text message, and almost all of my text messages are with video, just on the native app.
Oh, really?
So, so it's by far the most used.
Okay. So you take a video and then you text the video to them?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and we'll probably talk about this, but as you're trying to deepen connections with people that are in the field, or you're trying to recruit a candidate, you could write an email, right? Or you could do a voice memo thing, or you could actually do something with your face in it. And it doesn't require you to download any app. And one of the challenges I will tell people from this stage, this is what I just did with the PGA last week in Frisco, Texas, is think about one person you're grateful for. All right. Now that you have that person in your mind, right? That just the first person to pop to mind. Now, everyone, I want you to step aside and I want you to record a video text message under 30 seconds to send to that person. And it's the most amazing thing to watch what transpires after that.
Oh,
so yes,
it's
my text messages. Yep.
Yes, I love that. I use the voice memo. Like
Yeah,
my
no, I've used
girlfriends and
that.
I'm always like, I have to tell you something. I like, but anyway, okay, go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
So, what is a talent that you have that only those close to you know about?
So when I was younger, I figured out you remember Bebe's Kids? Like or there was like this cartoon out there that I could actually sound a lot like the baby. And so sometimes when I'm in a crowd with a baby there, I will actually pretend that I'm saying that the baby is talking, and they're like, "Did he just say Dada?" I'm like, and I'm just messing with them, and it's actually me doing it. It sounds. I've never done this. After hundreds of podcasts, I've never done this. Um, Hello, like I can do this
Oh my
weird like baby
goodness!
voice.
That is fabulous. I know. I'm so glad you did it because you knew
my
it was
video,
coming. You knew we were going to
my
be like,
video producer's next to me right now because he's never heard it. He's like, "How come you never pulled that one out?"
oh, that's awesome. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. Okay, last one of the first five. If you weren't doing what you're doing today, speaking to folks all over the world, what would you hope to be doing?
I think a teacher. I was a big Dead Poets Society fan, and there was something about watching Robin Williams in that. I was like, I always aspired to, make a difference and inspire others, especially young people. I'm not saying that I won't do that later in life, because I can see myself being like a college professor or something along those lines, maybe high school.
Cool.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool. Yeah. I
Yeah.
always said that too. Like I might want to be a teacher, like after I retire, like just be like the yearbook teacher, because I'm in
Totally. The
advertising.
yearbook
And I want to be like the
Dostins.
teacher that, hey, I want to help you put the yearbook together where it doesn't look dumb.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it. I don't have the patience. I don't think I could do it.
Oh, I couldn't
But
do.
I appreciate my sister's a teacher, and she works with children who are deaf, and
Mm.
those that have gotten like cochlear implants, and she teaches them how to speak and how to hear, because with that cochlear implant, things sound a little more metallic and different. And she has the patience of Job, which I guess the good Lord gave her all of that and gave me none of that. So I'm very appreciative of teachers. I just could never do it.
Yeah, I would have to do it. They would have to be like 14 or older
Yeah,
for sure.
maybe.
For
Yeah,
me.
I think I have the same requirement,
Hmm.
probably.
Yeah.
I have 13 and 11-year-old daughters, and I'm like, anything other than those ages, I'm good.
Yes, I have a 13-year-old daughter too, Chris.
Oh my
We can
gosh,
just have
we
a
could do a
therapy
whole
session in
podcast on that,
Nashville.
please.
Yeah,
Please.
for sure. Okay. All right. So we are going to dive right in now. So this is a kind of a fun episode, but we want to get Chris's insights on just kind of some topics of the day related to recruiting and retention. So because it's Christmas time, we thought we would do a naughty or nice episode for this December show. And so we're going to be tossing out some topics to you, Chris, that you can deem either naughty or nice when it comes to the recruiting and retention landscape. All right, so we're going
Yep.
to start with the very first one, which is onboarding and orientation.
Naughty. Naughty. Do you want me to say why?
Yes.
So what's cool about my vantage point is I can go into a lot of these organizations, and I can go in with data. So I'll send out a survey a lot of times, but before I go in, and I can look at what their employees are saying, and it's been astounding now with probably hundreds of these data points from all sizes of organizations, the commonalities. And onboarding is one of those that always comes in on the low end, from obviously the employees that work there. But more importantly, and this gets into tactics, one of the things that any organization can do is, a lot of people don't feel like there's growth opportunity within those organizations. So growth opportunity is kind of that main data point that I see is low. And so in the onboarding, what I suggest is you've got to set expectations for what growth looks like, as well as how long it's going to take them a job ladder essentially in their first week of being onboarded. When people have those expectations in place, then they can finally start understanding what it is that they're working towards. But so often people don't know where that trajectory potentially looks like.
Yeah, and believe it or not, we hear that even a lot with drivers too. Like a lot of drivers, and when we survey them, the truck drivers will tell us, they'll say, we need to understand what our career path looks like here. And for a driver, that a carrier has to get a little bit creative in how they explain that, because it might be like you start out as a driver in one division, maybe you go to a driver trainer position, maybe as you garner tenure here, you're paid specific incentives. I mean, y'all run into
Exactly.
that on the retention side too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, the interesting thing from an orientation standpoint with a truck driver is there's no drivers that I've ever talked to that actually love orientation. Right? All they care about is getting in and out and getting in a truck and starting to log miles. Um, so yeah, and that's obviously all part of the onboarding process, at least for and we've talked about this in previous episodes. And Chris, the way as an industry, the way that we hire truck drivers is totally different than most industries hire anybody else. I mean, most of the time you're going to hire somebody, you're going to have their interviews, and you're going to meet with them a couple of times. You're going to take them out to lunch. You're going to welcome them on their first day. You're going to take around and you're going to introduce them to people. But with truck drivers, they're talking to a recruiter over the phone most of the time, in which they actually never meet that recruiter.
Right.
We send them to orientation. They're there 2 or 3 days. We give them water through a fire hose. We throw some keys at them and we send them on their way. And then we expect them after that to know how to handle questions and take care of issues with virtually no relationships with anybody within the organization. And
Sure.
so, probably one of the main reasons why we have high turnover, especially within the first 6 months of employment. And so, it's crazy.
Along with that, I've seen this. I work very closely with a crane operator, so all their crane operators are in the field, and we've had to get what works for Nike, who I've worked with, doesn't necessarily work for crane operators, and one of the things that we found to be super compelling from an orientation standpoint is like really conveying to them what the financial gains can look like for that individual kind of growth trajectory, right? And that's with getting into some of the bonusing, setting some sort of expectation within a certain amount of years. There are people here that are in this track that are making X amount. When people understand what that looks like for themselves, they're like, oh man, I'm going to stick this out because I heard about this guy Bobby that is doing X, X, and X. And what happens instead is that no one communicates anything, and then they're like, I'm done with this. I don't even know where it is that I'm going. And so by putting some of those pieces in place, you alleviate a lot of those concerns.
So let's kind of move on here to the next subject here, which I think is probably pretty unique from a trucking standpoint in particular, and how we recruit truck drivers is technology in recruiting, naughty or nice.
I would actually say, technology's come a long way. I'd say that this is more in that nice category. This is one of those anomalies. And one of the opportunities I've seen with technology, I think you have to marry that technology. I mean, let's just take, any one of these super sophisticated programs that can actually find those potential recruits and allow you to reach out to them. So often people are reaching out in the wrong way, which is what really segued me into this place of, or mentality of, saving your asks, which is the name of my second book, because we need to approach recruitment in the same way that we approach sales, in that we've got to establish that connection first before we go in for that ask. In this case, in the recruitment domain, the technology can do a great job of, I think, finding those people, allowing you to contact them, but it's then the art of bringing them into the system and educating them as to what that opportunity looks like. That is, I think, essential.
Yes. And we always say the beauty of the technology piece is, like you said, it can get you, in our world, they want to get to that, what we call the full application, right? So you've recruited the person, you've let the technology, whether it be like Lead Assist, the technology we have, that's this just kind of really forward AI automated, getting them to the full application. But to your point, like once you have the full app and you know, wow, this driver would be a great fit for us, that's when that connection comes into play. And what you said is it's really a sales function at that point, not as much a recruiter function. Like we have clients ask us all the time, hey, I'm hiring a recruiter, you know, what are some of the key things that you think they should have? I'm like, there's not key, there's one thing. If they can sell, they need to be able to sell. They got to be able to close the deal. Because we can get you, like you said, we can get you the lead, we can even get you the full app, but if you can't close the deal, then, and not only close the deal, give them the offer, but then make sure they show up at orientation. Our industry, Chris, has a tough time of what we call no shows. A lot of drivers say, yeah, I'll be there on Monday, and then they don't show up, which is crazy. Like we would never probably think to do that in our normal career, what we would call our everyday corporate careers. But yeah, we think technology is very nice too, by the way. So yeah, for sure. Okay. The third one is, and this is interesting that we're talking about this on a driver truck, recruitment and retention for drivers podcast, because back in the day, this wasn't a big deal as much as it is today with drivers. But the next one is work-life balance. Would you say naughty or nice on that one?
Naughty.
Naughty.
Yeah, naughty. What's interesting about work-life balance, and more specifically, if you look at a lot of the data, it's work flexibility. And work-life balance, I like to say, is more work-life integration. And flexibility is best represented by allowing people to develop without these kind of track systems, right? And I bring this to life with a story of a company in California where on your 1-year job anniversary, you're allowed to create your own job description. And if you sell it into everyone else on your team, you're allowed to start doing that job. If everyone's like, yeah, thumbs up, that's great. And I have audience members guess that company in California, and people are like Uber, Facebook. And I then come in and say, actually, it's Morningstar Tomato Farms. And this is what they do in their manufacturing facilities. And if you look at the case study on it, there's been a lot of studies done on them, but they're actually revisiting that every 2 months. And that brings me into this mentality of how can we actually ensure that regardless of what it is that that person is doing, that we're creating some form of growth for them that is in line with their own interests. And even within these systems, like one of the greatest opportunities there is just allowing people to make lateral moves within that organization. Obviously, depending on what it is that the industry that we're talking about. But when we flip that mentality into more of that work flexibility, as well as this integration, how do we actually bring in more of this balance of life?
That's interesting. Good stuff. So the next one is employee value proposition, naughty or nice?
Naughty. I mean, I think so many people forget about what is the story that you're telling, right? Like, and at the end of the day, I think a lot of these companies spend at the board level or the C-suite level so much time and energy. And okay, what is our purpose? What are our values? What are these things? And then you ask anyone that works for the company, they're like, I don't know. It's like 7 things that live somewhere on the website. And so what are you doing tactically to actually bring that not only front and center, but also so that when those truck drivers are doing what they're doing, talk about how it is that they're contributing to this greater piece, right? And I think without conveying more of that story, but also what that person in particular is doing to contribute to it, you're not actually able to piece together that kind of storyline that we're telling ourselves on a daily basis. And what am I doing to actually impact that piece? How am I contributing to that? I mean, and I know this is leading to another question, but a great way to do that is with rewards and recognition. So how can you actually, with doing some rewards and recognition, bring that to the forefront that everyone can participate in and be recognized around?
Yeah, and I think you're so right. In trucking, like I mean, that's one of the first things we do when we get a new customer, as a recruitment advertising agency, that's one of the first things we do is really walk through with them what is your employee value proposition and all of that. But I will tell you, over the years, as I've sat in rooms with carriers, they tend to sound quite the same. And so what we always have to do, or not always, I shouldn't say always, but often what we have to do is go like, how do we, I know you're saying that you have an open door policy and my drivers are a name, not a number, and you're like family here, but so is everyone else. So let's go a couple steps deeper here. When you say, if you're a driver for me and your family here, what does that mean? Like, what does that actually look like for me as a driver? And when they start to articulate that, then normally we go, that's it. Yes, what you just said, that is actually your employee value proposition. It's not, oh, your family here. It's what makes it different about driving for your carrier. And so I do think kind of organizations struggle with that a little bit. And to your point, once they have what it is, they don't communicate it effectively throughout the company so that everyone knows. Like, everybody should know that, especially for their drivers. Like, because if a driver comes in to your carrier and they're just, going about their business, going to the driver's lounge, getting a cup of coffee, we want all of our team to be thinking about, okay, what do we want this guy to feel like? If we're saying that to work here, this is really what it feels like to work here, I need to make this person feel that way. So anyway, I think, I agree. I do think that one's naughty because we're just, as an industry, we're not great at it.
No,
we're just not.
I would agree.
Okay. So you mentioned this just a second ago. So the next one is recognition and rewards programs. So what do you think about those?
It's so naughty and it's so easy to be nice in this category. And I use two quick stories to demonstrate that. I talk about the Big Blue Rooster, where so many companies hold up these technology companies up on this kind of pedestal that have the best culture ever. And so if you dissect, okay, what is that? I did a lot of research in finding some of these, and one of them was a very sales-oriented technology company called Domo out of San Francisco. And what they did is, on your first day on the job, you would fill out all your paperwork, and the HR person would then ask you, okay, what do you want your at-bat song to be? The new employee is like, what do you mean? Like, what do you want? And they say, what do you want to play over the loudspeakers if you're going for your speech or whatever? And, on a whim, you're like, okay, I don't know, Khalid, all I do is win. And then people kind of forget about it. And then on the first day of every month, what Domo did is they would play the at-bat song of the number one salesperson. Blue sirens would go off, and they would take a 10-foot Big Blue Rooster on wheels to sit next to that person's cubicle for the rest of the month.
I love it.
And that's what they gave every single number one salesperson for the month. And so I ask organizations, so what is your Big Blue Rooster? In working with this crane company, what we figured out, we spent $60 on a Rockstar of the Month award. And it was just a Rockstar hand in silver that said Rockstar of the Month award. But it wasn't just the award. It was about how the CEO would then go and give it to the people in the field, because he would send to everyone, because everyone's in the field, similar to truckers. And he would send a 2-minute video of who won it that month and why they were so important. And then he'd then give it to them that next day. He'd go and fly and see them to give it to them. And what happened was all of these people in the field would then send it to their friends and family. They were so proud of the fact that the CEO was giving them the Rockstar of the Month award. And then, so that's kind of top down. So what's your Big Blue Rooster? And then peer to peer, like, what are the things that you can put into place that your truck drivers can actually reward one another as they help each other out. It could be as simple as covering a shift or whatever it is, right? But putting something in place that peer to peer they can recognize one another.
Yeah, that's great. I love the app. What's your at-bat song?
Now that's a serious question. That's something
It is a serious question.
I'm going to have to put some thought behind.
What comes to mind is "Welcome to My House." That song. I don't even know.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good hype song.
Flow Right? No, I don't. Why am I thinking I know? Anyway,
I think love that. Maybe right off the top, I would probably do a little GNR "Welcome to the Jungle."
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Scott, that's a good one.
You've got that intro. Yeah, you got that little guitar riff intro that kind of really builds it up.
Yeah. Or what's the one? See, I don't know.
AC/DC.
Yeah, that's it.
Back in Black's a good one. Yeah. See, now we're talking my jam. We're talking hair metal.
We're old, Chris.
Back in the saddle with Aerosmith. That would be a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So that is a good one. Yeah. So last one here, and this obviously in trucking is a big deal, and we all like to be creative in trucking on how we do pay. So guarantee pay, it's a big buzzword right now in the industry. As Priscilla would tell you, I have a lot of opinions about guarantee pay, but guarantee pay or how companies are approaching compensation, naughty or nice?
I would say naughty. I don't think people are getting as creative as they need to. And, we talk about some of those initial pieces around growth opportunity, right? And I don't think a lot of organizations are looking at compensation in a creative enough way. And instead they're just saying, okay, here's the hourly rate and this is what we're doing, right? So why not move to more of a bonusing programming in where everyone wins at certain thresholds while also illustrating what that future growth can look like for people. And so I don't, once again, people are not. The problem I run up against the most with all of this stuff is doing things the same way that they've always been done, right? And so how can we get a little bit more creative, especially in this arena, to thinking about things a little bit differently?
Yeah. Well, and I think as you learn more about even our industry, one of the things you're going to find, I've only been in this 9 years, going on 10, I guess. Priscilla's been in it a little longer. Is one of the things that I've seen from this industry is we do not think outside of the box. It's always a lot easier to do it as we've always done it and continue to do it as we've always done it. And anytime you've got to find somebody within the organization or within the carrier, at least that we work with, that's kind of willing to step outside of their comfort zone and take a chance on something, particularly as it relates to any kind of technology or just completely different of how we've done it in the past.
Yeah. And I do think we are getting better. Like, I'm 26 years in the industry.
She started when she was 5.
I was. But I do remember when it was like, change was not, we were pretty dead set in our ways. I mean, had you told me 5 years ago, even, or 7 years ago, that I would be talking about how we're using advanced AI automation in recruiting, I would have been like, you crazy, it just would be. And I remember the days of when we first started getting digital driver applications, we would print them out and we would stack them on our desk, and just because we needed the paper, like we had to have the paper. Nobody has the paper now, I mean, it's very interesting, but yeah, I think naughty too. But I think what's getting even more interesting along the driver pay realm of things is that it's starting to we're starting to see, a lot of carriers, large carriers that have traditionally been over the road. We've talked about this before on some previous episodes, are now more regionalized type carriers. So they're paying drivers differently depending on the region, which has not necessarily been the case. It's a little bit
I agree.
different than it used to be.
It is. And I think, Chris, what you'll find is we have gotten creative, but we've also, I think, to some degree, gotten a little too cute for our own good on some things. And this is my soapbox, and we've talked about it in others, but this whole guarantee pay notion, that's one of the things that, particularly during the COVID economy within our industry, that a lot of carriers went to is, hey, we'll pay you, $1,200 a week or whatever it is. And they use that terminology, guarantee pay, which when you're selling from an advertising standpoint, that's awesome. That's what everybody wants to hear. But what we've done as an industry is we've taken that guarantee and we've told them we'll pay you $1,200 a week if you do A, B, and C. And that's not a guarantee. That's a condition. And so I think that's what we've done is we've thought a little bit outside of the box, but then we've gotten a little cute about how we do it. And I think, again, from an advertising expectation standpoint, that driver that hears guarantee pay, they assume that that's the number that's going to be on their check each week. And when it's not there, that driver's gone. And so that's what we've done. I think we've just gotten a little too cute in some instances.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, Chris, we're going to get to talk about all the things in Nashville. We can't wait.
I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, it's going to be so fun. So don't forget, you guys, if you haven't registered for the Recruitment and Retention Conference, Chris is one of our keynotes, and he's going to be talking specifically about driver retention and being really authentic in our connections with drivers. And we're so excited. I mean, I'm excited I'm going to figure out the Blue Rooster for conversion now.
And I'm definitely going to have a walk-up song I want playing every morning.
That song.
Hey, you know another good one is you're walking into work every day, the theme from the People's Court. I've always thought that would be awesome. I've always thought that would be awesome.
That's so good. Or if someone's leaving early, the Flintstones.
Yes. Oh, yes. I love it.
Well, Chris, man, we really appreciate your time today. We take some time out of your schedule to join us. We wanted to make sure that folks could see what they're going to see at the conference here in Nashville in February. Like Priscilla said, if you haven't signed up, go sign up. You definitely want to hear Chris and the other speakers that we have coming in. But we really appreciate your time today, man. And hopefully we can have you back on here before too long and we can talk a little more about
kiteboarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. Looking forward to having Chris. That was a fantastic interview. I think he's going to be great at the conference. Really some great insight, like his energy, and anybody that can kiteboard. I definitely want to bring in on that energy. So, all right, it's that time of the show where we want to provide you with resources and information that has recently caught our eye to help you recruit smarter and retain better. So, Priscilla, what is your data point for everybody to send them off for the year?
Yeah, so I think one of the things, in our first 5, our serious questions that seriously do not matter, we always ask our guests, what's the most used app on your phone? And ironically enough, we asked drivers that on the last driver survey. And I know you know the answer. So
I do know the answer, so I won't say anything.
But I would ask the listener and the viewer today, do you know what the most used app on a truck driver's phone is? And if you don't, the number 1 most used app is YouTube. And so one of the biggest questions that we have is people always say, as I'm thinking about next year, what are some things I should think about? Matter of fact, I just did, we just interviewed with Transport Topics about they're covering the end of the year for recruiting and retention as well. And I talked to the reporter about this as well. But so something to think about. I know it seems so simple. Like, okay, if we know the most used app for drivers is YouTube, then that kind of begs the question, what is your video strategy for 2024? And Chris even touched on, did he touch on that? Were we recording or were we not recording? I don't remember.
I don't remember because I don't know what you're going to say.
We had a conversation with Chris. I think it may have been before we started recording. I can't remember. But it was while we were.
He's got everybody on the edge of their seats.
Using it's
a text video.
Yeah, his most used app is text. That's right. We were recording. Sorry. I'm old. And so anyway, he just was talking about how easy it is to send video. So listen, at the end of the day, you don't have to have this big elaborate video production. If you want to, great. We can make that happen as well. But if you just simply use your phone or your smartphone, or better yet, have someone in your organization who's really good at that. I know there's folks that are really good at that. Like we do TikTok videos for our brand. It's because Coral and a lot of the folks in our office, Coral Tiano, our content marketing manager, she's great at that kind of thing. And so I mean, I think that you got to just make sure that you're showing up where drivers are hanging out online. And when they're telling us I'm hanging out on YouTube, you got to have a strategy for that. So, yes, make sure you have video content. Make sure that you're including YouTube as part of your what we call our SEM aware, our search engine marketing aware strategy. But just make sure that you're including that as part of your strategy. Otherwise, you're missing out on a big piece of where drivers are. So that's what I had.
All right. So I'm going to kind of go off script.
Oh no.
So normally I'm pulling stuff off of our data, whether it's a quarterly report or whether it's the survey. But as we kind of hear at the end of the year, it's no secret it's been a difficult year within the industry. Everybody's dealing with freight recession and things of that nature. And so everybody's kind of looking at cutting costs and where can we cut back and where can we save money. And I think one of the things that's kind of been the takeaway that we've had maybe as a company this year is as we've been having these conversations with our partners, and we've got a lot of fantastic partners, is when you're talking from a recruiting standpoint, one of the most important metrics is what is the cost per hire. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what is that cost per hire? And I think one of the things that we really fail to do and look at as an industry that incorporates that cost per hire is what is the cost per loss? What does it cost a company to lose a driver? And obviously that cost per hire is part of that, but there's also other aspects of that too. And it's customer relationships. It's the loss of kind of the knowledge that that driver has with your routes, with customers. It's engine and equipment wear and tear because new drivers that haven't been driving your equipment tend to not drive it maybe as well as somebody that's been with you for a certain amount of time. We're talking about the possibility of increased insurance rates if you're constantly churning and burning drivers. And so one of the things that we're really talking about is really now during this economic time is the time to be investing in retention. And one of the things that we've looked at and we've done a lot of research with is what is the cost per loss. And I think kind of in talking with people and doing a lot of research, I think the real conservative number that we've come up with that we don't get a whole lot of pushback when we mention this to carriers and people in the industry is $10,000, somewhere between $10,000 and $15,000 that it costs a company to lose one driver. And I think if we're going to look at retention as a whole and companies looking at retention, you have to know what your cost per loss number is. Because otherwise, when you save a driver, you don't know what kind of money you're saving as a company. It's kind of hard for that number to really show up on a P&L statement is what is that cost per loss? And if I save just one driver, how much money am I saving the company?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my little data point for the end of the year as it's been a tough year. It's been an interesting year is know that cost per loss. It's probably somewhere in that 10 to 15. It may be a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, but we think conservatively based on the research that we've done, it's somewhere in that $10,000 to $15,000 range. And that's a pretty big number.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably really close to being about where it, I mean, if you think about the revenue, the truck that you're losing and
just sitting on the fence.
It's every day, that's a significant cost. So yeah, no, that's good. Very, very good stuff. Well, listen, this was fun. We're in the same room.
Yeah, it was fun to do this in person. Hopefully we can do this a little more often.
I love it. I know. Thanks for listening to the resource. Listen, if you had fun or if you really kind of got some good information today from Chris or from Scott and I, then give us a high five by leaving a rating or a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button or the follow button because you never want to miss an episode.
No. Not at all. And if you have any questions or feedback, hit us up here, social media, via email. You can find us on each of our websites. But we want to welcome you back. to our next episode. You get more fun, more data, more information to help you recruit smarter and retain better. And I think I would like to wish everybody a very, very Merry Christmas and a blessed and happy New Year. And hopefully we can get this freight recession behind us and maybe get back to a little bit of normal.
Yes, and we hope to see you all at the Recruitment and Retention Conference.
That's right.
February 21st through the 23rd. You can go to annualrrconference.com to register for that. We're selling out fast.
There we go. Make sure you sign up. Everybody have a great Christmas, and we will see you next time.